Welcome to Toxicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Gordo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation.
1, 2, 3, shoot. Gotcha. Go.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Toxicology, the best podcast in the entire universe about any subject. We are just we just got the news that we've graduated.
Ooh.
So even though we are a podcast about mental health, addiction, and recovery, we are
Now the greatest.
taking over.
Take that, Dax Shepard.
Oh shit! Shots fired.
Amateur. Tourist.
He's kind of big. I wouldn't mess with him, and he's like an old hardcore dude. Like,
You know
he'd
what?
Probably rough you up.
You know what? Dax Shepard, I know you like to come to Austin. Next time you come to Austin, you want to come on the show, we'll arm wrestle.
Or just be a guest on the podcast.
Nah, if you beat me at arm wrestling, then we'll let you be a guest.
God, you keep on putting your foot in your mouth. I'm just trying to get the guy on.
Nah.
Stop trying to be such a tough guy. Joseph's been going to the gym a lot lately, and he really
Dax.
needs to prove. Do you want to show your guns? Is this
No.
what we're doing? I
No.
don't know. I think you might be.
No,
No?
not at all.
It'll be a
No.
birthday present for me if you do.
But your birthday was last week.
Oh yeah, that's right. Last week I get it. You know, I'm 48 now, so it's like I get times and everything confused.
But it's how you enjoying the fall weather? You got this lovely sweater on today.
Even though it's still a little warm, I try to beckon the fall a little bit more by bringing, because I'm a cold weather person. I can't, like, anything over 75 degrees, and I get grumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it cold.
Yeah, no, living in Austin means having a collection of hoodies that you don't get enough cold days to wear.
Try living in Florida for the majority of your life, and it didn't stop me from buying jackets and sweaters. I just absolutely, it'd be like one day, and I'd have to do 5 or 6 outfit changes.
Oh, man. So I got my phone fixed. I feel a lot better than I did last week.
That's great.
Yeah.
Tell us about what happened after we left the podcast last week, and then you got your phone fixed. I know a lot of crazy stuff happened.
Well, get this. So I use your phone to Google Map the closest Verizon store. Drive there. They are closed because their water main burst. Now, I could understand if it was a restaurant or something.
But luckily, you have a background in plumbing, so you were able to get in there, help the guy out to fix it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so I get back in there, and there's just water everywhere all over the bathroom.
What size pipe did they have that was burst?
It was 16 3/4.
Okay,
Yeah.
The go-to.
So I assessed the issue, ran to my car, pulled out my handy dandy plumbing kit.
Mhm.
Right, got some of that really cool blue plumber's glue. Slap that on there. A little PVC pipe, good to go. I said, "Give me a phone."
And they did for your service.
Well, they made me arm wrestle them. They said, "If you arm wrestle us and win, we'll give you a new phone."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay," and I won, and I got a new phone,
Wow.
and life is dandy.
That's great.
But I will tell you, I'm not a Luddite, but
Me neither.
if I could avoid owning a cell phone at this point in my life, I would.
Yeah. Do you think you'd be able to?
Well, I know I'm not able to, but
Right. So let's take work out of the equation. Let's take your political career out of the equation. Let's take having to stay connected to your children out of the equation.
I could live on a flip phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a laptop.
So if you went on, so let's say you went on a vacation where
Yes.
you do cruises. So you go on
Yeah.
vacations where you
Yeah.
don't do phones. Do you feel more centered, more at peace, more in touch
Yeah.
with your chi?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a more interesting person without a phone. Life is more interesting.
How could that be? I couldn't imagine you any more interesting.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot to be said about the pace at which we live our lives nowadays.
It's pretty high pace.
I mean, you ever get on to buy something on Amazon and they're like, it's going to be 5 days, and you're like, well, what the fuck? I guess I'll just drive to the goddamn store.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago. I often relate to the old man in Shawshank Redemption who gets out of prison
Oh
and
yeah,
he's like bagging groceries and he's like, the world has gone and gotten itself into a big hurry or something
yeah,
like everybody's
yeah,
gone and gotten
yeah.
themselves in a big hurry. Like
And then he hangs himself.
when I got clean, yeah,
Spoiler alert.
when I got clean, that's where I was. Like my first work email has been at Recovery Unplugged. Like
Wow.
I am, I never had I had never ordered anything online before
Yeah.
up until like 5 years ago. I ordered a pair of shoes. Once I had like a year clean, I was like, I'm gonna try this online shopping thing. And it's I feel like unfrozen caveman lawyer. It's great.
You're like Brendan Fraser in Encino Man.
Yeah, yeah. A
Um,
little bit more physically fit, but yeah.
I don't know. Brendan Fraser was good looking in Encino Man. Was he? No. Oh, okay.
Let me have this one.
Absolutely. You know what? Oh, I mean, nowadays, Brendan Fraser
Better than current day, but he is like, I don't want to take any shots
No.
at Brendan Fraser. He just seems like such a great dude.
Nothing but love for Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
Dax Shepard, on the other hand.
you could arm wrestle Dax. I'll arm wrestle Brendan Fraser, and we'll
Let's see who wins.
he'd probably win.
Well, anyway, should we get to our guest?
Yeah, let's
Let's
do
go.
it.
So this week's guest is a woman that almost needs no introduction. She is a woman who is the master of any room she walks into. She is a person in long-term recovery. She is the National Director of Alumni Services at Recovery Unplugged.
That's fancy.
She is a person who puts up with no bullshit.
What are you looking over there for?
'Cause and she is a person who's living her best life in recovery. Just bought her first house and then bought a new car the next day because fuck you, that's why. Without any further ado, Miss Ashley Armstrong.
Poof.
You are a bad actress.
I'm horrible. I can't lie either. I'm really bad at lying.
How did you make it as a drug addict if you couldn't lie?
I was just always very truthful.
Oh, really?
Yes, officer, I'm high.
Yeah.
No, I avoided cops, but like I never lied to like my family about getting high.
Yeah.
I guess there was a few times I lied. No one ever believed me when I lied.
Right.
So
All right. Well, welcome to the show, Ashley. Thanks for coming on.
thank you.
Thank you so much. We've been trying to do this for a while. Geshe, I know
know.
you love being on camera. You love being the center of attention. That's what everybody says about you.
It's what I live for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ashley, let's start at the beginning. You're from Florida, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Broward County?
Yes.
Fucking A.
Ooh.
Not from Broward, but I lived in Broward for the majority of my life.
Yeah, but Ashley's
I know.
From,
That's what I'm saying. You
like,
don't get
born in Broward County.
Yeah, I was born at Broward General, which I don't even think it's called that anymore.
Broward General. Yeah, it is still called
Is
Broward
it?
General.
It's
Yeah.
like on Copans, I think.
Oh
or-
wait, I'm thinking of the one on Andrews Avenue.
I don't know.
Anyway, you're
You could
listening to
see
the
it-
best
you could see it on
podcast about
95.
Broward County,
The
Florida
geography of
hospitals.
Broward County. All right. So Ashley, I feel like I say this to everybody, but I don't know a lot about your story. I know you went to rehab a bunch,
Yeah.
and then you didn't go to rehab anymore. That's about
So
all
what
I know.
happened?
That's it. That's my.
Okay. Thanks a lot. There's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out. And
We hope you found yours. We're done. So let's start at the beginning. One thing that I'm noticing is that almost everybody that we talk to has what you'll hear referred to in the rooms as the ism before the alcohol, right?
Mhm.
I know I was kind of fucked up before the alcohol and drugs. So let's start there. When was the first time you realized you were a little fucked up?
I mean, I was like, I say I was a really weird kid, but I don't think weird is like a correct term to use. I was a very fearful kid, and I hated going to school. I never liked leaving my house at all. Like my entire life I was just scared of everything. I was even scared of being at my house.
really?
It was very, I don't know. It feels like a dream thinking back to it because it was just so, like there were like nights that I wouldn't even sleep in my like childhood bedroom because I was terrified. I couldn't even tell you what I was terrified of.
Yeah.
I
Fear
was,
itself.
yeah, I was just, always thought like something bad was going to happen to me. And so there's this overwhelming like fear of the world and people
Yeah.
and,
So first day of school must have been.
absolutely not. I used to, my mom always jokes about this. There was a day that it was in elementary school and I unlocked my bedroom door or my bedroom window before I left for the bus stop and I came back and climbed through my window and hid in my closet all day. Yeah.
Are you serious?
And then,
That's how bad I didn't want to go to school.
did you go back out the window and show up at the front door like, I'm home from school?
Or do you
No,
not have
I
that-
think that they found me like a few hours in. So, but yeah, school is not, I hated school. I didn't have, like, I wasn't good at making friends because I was too scared to talk to anybody. And I also wasn't good at school because I was too scared to ask for help. So I pretty much just sat there in fear in school
See,
until I didn't go back to school.
it's wild hearing you say all that because, like, I know you as the exact opposite. I see you talking to people
Yeah.
all the time.
People say that, but I still have like a lot of fear. Obviously, it's better, but even like, I struggle with driving places that I don't know where it is.
True.
There's still like a lot of things that it still pops up in my life, but I have obviously found ways to live with it and work through it since I've been sober.
So, do you identify as someone that has anxiety, like diagnosed anxiety, or
I mean, I guess I've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety since I was born. I definitely have anxiety. I wouldn't say it's like to the point of not being able to function. Like I know some people who literally like I'm scared. Like I'm scared to get in my car and drive every day. That's just my natural feeling of how I feel in life, but I still get my car and go.
yeah?
There's people who like can't do that, so
So I think we're very similar in that because I joke about it a lot, but like my default setting is anxious
yeah.
and stressed, and I
Yeah.
just play it off really well. I think most of the time.
Yeah, people when I'm like running group at work, I'll tell them, like how scared I was when I was first like my whole life and when I was first getting sober and they never believe me.
Yeah.
They're always like you're literally running a group right now. There's 40 people in here and I'm like, yeah, I know. It's
I mean, does it help that you're working with people who have been through what you've been through, what they've been through, and you could like relate to them and
yeah, it's like I'm talking to a bunch of me,
I would hate talking to a bunch of me. I would absolutely hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's easier when I'm addressing addicts and alcoholics in a group than addressing a group of people who I do not relate with.
right.
Bunch of normies.
Yeah.
So okay, so you growing up, you've got this kind of default anxiety setting, right? Fear, anxiety, and you go through all these elaborate ways to get around it, like sneaking out your window and all that kind of stuff. But so when do you first find something that is a solution for that?
I mean, I always acted out. I was like a bad kid.
Bad girl.
Yeah, I always was getting like I went basically from being silent in school to like skipping school.
Yeah.
Because that was my solution in the beginning,
Just not show up.
Exactly. I started like messing around with like, weed and alcohol pretty young. My neighborhood, everyone in my neighborhood growing up, all of the parents were super heavy drinkers.
What neighborhood was it?
It's Hillsborough Pines. It's right off of like Loxahatchee and 441.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone was super heavy drinkers. So they would have these parties, and me and all the other kids on my street, they're like family to me. I like
Yeah.
grew up with these people. They're basically like my cousins, and we would like steal wine coolers and stuff like that. Nobody ever even noticed either.
What was the wine cooler of choice?
I don't remember. I don't remember any of it. I actually don't remember a lot of my childhood. A therapist will tell me that's because of trauma, but yeah, I don't remember. There's like complete years just that I don't remember.
Okay. Let's hear about those years.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I started messing around with stuff. So my dad was a drug addict and alcoholic. So I always knew about drugs and alcohol. Like there wasn't like one day I found out about them. It was just like something I knew from
Right.
the moment I had my first thought. Like I knew that drugs and alcohol were a thing. Ironically, I really hated alcohol because when I would see my dad all messed up, if he was drunk, it was way worse. Like him and my mom would be fighting, whatever. Anytime the cops got called to my house, it was because he was drunk. But if my dad was high, he was pretty chill,
Yeah.
in my
good
opinion.
mood.
Yeah.
We're gonna make some s'mores.
Yeah,
and watch
they would
Empire
still.
Records.
My parents would still fight, and I always kind of like thought my mom had a problem. I was like, "Can you just leave him alone? Like he's literally just sitting there sleeping." So, yeah, I never had like a fear of drugs, which I guess is a bad thing. My mom would take us to. She was in Al-Anon, from when my dad was trying to get sober, and so she would take us, and we would go into like the Alateen meetings, and I hated it. It was miserable. I hated AA. My grandfather also was in AA, so anytime we would go to like these yearly gatherings at South Miami Hospital, because that's where he worked. They had a treatment center out there, and everybody there was like where they passed out year medallions, and I was just like, this is kind of lame.
Is that a VA hospital?
I don't know.
No, because I used to bring
Hospital.
meetings.
No,
there,
it's South Miami Hospital is just a hospital, but they had a separate facility. Like they have a detox. I think this detox is still there, but they had a separate off the grounds residential.
Okay.
So you know what they say about Alateen?
What?
You either successfully graduate and start going to Al-Anon, or you fail and
Does
end up
anybody
in AA.
does anybody go to Al-Anon after Alateen?
Yes.
Well, eventually my mom stopped making me and my sister go because we hated it. But yeah, my mom also, I think, she let me and my sister experiment because she knew that was in our blood.
Being from Florida.
And I think, exactly. Yeah. I think that she, wanted us to do it the safe way.
Right. If you're going to do it at home
Exactly,
in a
where I
controlled
know where you are.
environment. And we see that worked.
Just fall asleep next to your dad.
Didn't pan out well. But yeah.
So alcohol and drugs starts to help you cope with this fear, anxiety stuff.
Well, I have a question though. So drugs and alcohol were like the one thing that you weren't afraid of, like, because you seem like you lived in such fear for so long, but that was the one thing that you're just like, well, okay, I'm going to take a chance here, but not going to school.
Yeah. No, I just wasn't. There was no fear. I remember the first time I smoked weed, and I remember my sister. We smoked weed together for the first time. I probably 9 years old or something like that. Because I always hung out with my sister and her friends, and they were like 3 years older. So everything when they did it, I did it too. And I remember my sister was scared that we were gonna get caught, but I was like, "It's fine. This is gonna be fine." Like,
trust me on this.
yeah. So yeah, it just came very naturally to me.
The confidence to do drugs.
Yeah, it's weird, but I feel like with people who grow up in, houses where people are using drugs and alcohol, it really goes one way or the other.
Right.
And I would see, I always think back to like where I'd see my grandfather, who had when he passed away, he had like 32 years sober or something
Wow.
like that. And then I would like see my dad going in and out of treatment, and I was like, yeah, there's really two ways that I can go.
Right.
And I chose to
Yeah,
go the other way.
I
So,
could definitely relate on the you don't have this stigma behind it, because drugs were everywhere in my life as a
mhm.
kid. Like, my parents were in the music business. My godfather was a smuggler. My mom, this is after I got clean. She tried to co-sign for a car for me. This was just maybe like 5 years ago. And they were like, well, you don't really have, to her, like, you
Right.
don't really have like the credit or anything like that. And she was like, well, I was a drug smuggler. What am I going to do? Put that down and like pay taxes on it? So
Right.
yeah, understanding when a kid grows up and this is just what adults do. And
And that's what it was. Like, my dad died from an overdose in 2004.
Mm.
And my dad, he had like a group of friends that I think of it like me and my friends now. Like, they were all super close. I assume at some point they were all trying to get sober, but within like 3 years, 3 of them died. So I was just like, oh, I guess people just die in like their 30s.
right.
Like, that's just what I was like. I don't, it was just kind of normalized where in like my home.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you know, that's what you know.
yeah. And my mom definitely like tried to veer us away from it. And especially when me and my sister used together for a good portion of my early using. And I remember when we started using opiates, she was like not having it. Like, she was like, absolutely not. My mom.
Yeah.
Because I was, before I got into opiates,
Because you just like told your mom, like, hey, we started doing Oxycontin.
no,
Or-
I wasn't honest with her. I was honest with her about like the Xanax, and I had like a phase with ecstasy, as we do.
Mhm.
But where I'm from back then, smoking Roxy's was just the thing to do. Everybody was doing it. I know that sounds crazy, especially for back then, but like even like normal. I have a friend who like she's like a lawyer now, and I smoked Roxy's with her. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, Broward County, early to mid 2000s,
yeah,
it was probably the epicenter of the pill mill at that time. Like, that's where, it started in, you know, where was Dope Sick took place, the show? Do you remember?
it's like West Virginia.
Like West
Yeah.
Virginia,
Yeah.
and then it moved over because they found some loophole in the law that a pain management clinic didn't have to be in a database. So you could have down Commercial Boulevard, which is in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, there were pain management clinics as far as the eye can see. No lie. And you could
Yeah.
go from one doctor to another, to another, to another, and you were getting 30 milligram Roxy's on the street for like $5 at the time.
Yeah. No, it was insane. There was like a joke that Roxy's grew on the trees in West Boca
Right.
because they were just everywhere, and it was just. But as soon as my mom caught us doing that, that's when she was like, absolutely not. So that I had to hide because she was not a fan of opiates. Probably learning later, my first trip to rehab, that that's what my dad was doing, opiates and Xanax as well.
Right.
So
So were you around? So what was your, let's say, what was your pill habit at what age are we talking about right now?
it's hard for me to, like I said, it's hard for
Okay,
me to
so
remember, but
late teens.
for reference, I know when Nicole graduated high school, we were already getting high. I wasn't like fully into it yet. So I was probably 15 or 16. Nicole Nicole got worse before I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like super judgmental towards her too, because I was like, you're a fiend, you know, like, I was like, it's a little embarrassing.
Yes. So there was this period in time when all of these pain management clinics shut down, and it was almost like every day 5 or 6 were shutting down, and this is fueling tens of thousands of people's habits who are used to getting these, even if they're not going to the doctors, they're able to get them on the street for $5 a pill. Almost overnight, they're going for $20 a pill. And it was just so many people. I mean, that's when the rehab started.
I was like
opening up
19
Yeah.
when that happened. And that's when heroin.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I went to my dealer and he's like, there's no more, but there's this. And I was like, sounds good.
Okay, I'm no dummy. Let's go.
Yeah.
No contemplation there, no question. Just like, oh, well, this is what
Well,
I do.
I was sick, you know, like I was withdrawing. I wasn't like fully into, like I wasn't IVing everything, but I had already started messing around with needles. So, and it was way cheaper to buy heroin. So it was pretty much just like I was like, of course.
Yeah, an economic decision.
Yeah.
So, at that point in time, you're living that life, and are you still like into it? Like you're like okay with this is the life I live?
Yeah, honestly, when I was 19 years old, that was like the worst year of my life. My addiction progressed backwards. Like I started off because when I was 19, I started smoking crack.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's ever smoked crack knows that it takes you to your bottom so much faster than heroin.
Because like you can fix heroin 3-4 times a day and you're good. Whereas with crack, 3-4 times an hour, less, more, you know?
There was a point where I was choosing to buy crack over heroin, and that's when I was like, I called my mom, I was like, I have a little problem. And my dad had paid for like a college fund, like Florida has like a system where you can prepay for your kids' college.
Florida prepaid college
Exactly.
fund.
So I cashed that out, and I went to detox in Cooper City because I wanted to get off the crack. I had no interest
Getting off the opiates.
in getting off opiates.
This crack thing's getting in my way.
Yeah. I smoked crack about 5 minutes after I left, so that didn't take. But I eventually did back off kind of on my own off the crack because it was just like getting a little too. It was ruining even the little bit of a life that I had with heroin. So I had to eventually stop.
What were you doing to support your habit back then? Like, were you waiting tables? What were you doing?
I was stealing.
Just running scams?
Yeah, running scams.
Doing returns and stuff.
Yeah, I'm banned from every Kohl's in the country.
Nice.
So shout out to
Why
Kohl's.
is it always Kohl's?
They're just everywhere in South Florida, and they had a
always
decent return
Kohl's.
policy.
Yeah, and you could take it to the pawn shop. They would give you
Go
50 cents on the dollar. So
Are you flagged from Home Depot too?
I'm not.
What?
No, when I got it wasn't even the first time I got arrested, but when I got arrested at Kohl's, it was 2 days after I turned 18, and it scared the shit out of me because I had never the arrests that I had before I turned 18. Obviously, I didn't go to jail. My mom picked me up, so the thought of going to jail, that's another one of my fears.
Jail.
Yeah, like terrified me. So I didn't. After that, I just started, robbing houses.
Oh, naturally.
Yeah.
So there's a picture that I have seen of you that your sister gave me, if you know what picture I'm talking about.
Am I like leaned over with crack pipes everywhere?
Yeah. And then a rig. Let's talk about what that day was like, if you remember.
Yeah, I had I was actually living up north with my best friend Jamie. She lives in Sebastian. She's like my sister. I've known her since I can remember. And I was doing the Suboxone thing. It was going really well for me. I was working for her dad, who's in recovery. But every weekend, when I would get paid because I had a job, I would go back down to South Florida and get high all weekend. And eventually I was like, why am I even doing this? So I moved into an efficiency in Pompano.
Oh, you're not talking about why am I doing this, getting high every weekend.
No,
You're like,
why am I on
going
the
back up to
Suboxone?
work?
Yeah, I was like, this is just it's it got a little ridiculous. So I moved into an efficiency in Pompano, right off Copans and Federal.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm loving all the Broward geography. I think
Yeah.
this is really going to hit with our listeners.
Yeah, this was like when Flocka was like a thing too. It was terrifying. Pompano was such a scary place to be back
yeah.
then.
Pompano Beach is just a little bit north of Fort Lauderdale. And it is super nice if you are on the east side on the beach. But once you go over, I'd say about 1.5 miles from the beach westward, it is just not pretty.
Yeah. So I had a boyfriend at the time. He was working full time. I would just lay there dope sick until he brought me dope home. But I had started smoking crack again in that time. And I had to have I was like 78 pounds when I checked into detox that time. I literally, my head looked huge. Like there's a picture of me and I literally looked insane. And yeah, my sister came and got me out of that. She got me a scholarship into a facility. It's actually not open anymore. It was called Palm Partners. And she picked me up from that efficiency and took me to Palm Partners.
So how does it? So I got sober the same year the iPhones came out.
Mm-hmm.
So my addiction is not heavily documented because, the world wasn't walking around with cameras in their pockets. How does it feel for you, like having all these pictures and documentation of your lowest? Like, is it like a reminder of like how far you've come, or is it kind of like, God, I wish that didn't exist? Like,
I don't really mind, and that's like the thing. I know people whose like extended family don't know a lot about their disease. They get weird about that stuff being on Facebook or whatever. Everybody in my family, including like my grandparents on both sides, they all know about my addiction. They all are very familiar with addiction.
Yeah.
Right.
So there was never any like judgment. So I don't really care. There's really not that much of me though. Sometimes I see, we have the alumni Facebook, and sometimes I see the clients that are all on meth posting on Facebook, and I'm like, thank God that I wasn't a meth girl because I was like not like actively posting weird stuff and pictures of myself. I was pretty
Right.
low key.
just staying home watching Judge Judy.
I was watching at that time I went to detox. I was watching Pretty Little Liars, okay?
That was your thing.
Yeah, it was my thing. I was and I would be dope sick and I would watch Pretty Little Liars until my ex-boyfriend came home with the dope. And the whole theme of it's a horrible show. It's it's not, it's like funny, it's so bad.
Uh-huh.
But the whole thing is like, who is A? You're trying to figure out who this person who signs their name as A is the whole time. And I remember Nicole was driving me to detox, and I was like, I have to find who's A. Like, I need to know. I was like Googling it. I couldn't get it was A is evidently 3 different people.
What?
But
Spoiler alert.
I know.
Jesus.
The show came out like 15 years ago.
That's fine.
But
So okay, so it sounds like you're in this phase at this point in your life where like you're going to detox every now and then, but you're not really trying to get sober yet.
no, so I had the first like actual attempt at getting sober, like where I actually tried. It was a facility in Delray Beach, and I did not the first time. I went through there like 3 times in a row. I think like the third time, I got out, and my sister had an apartment in Delray. She had a few, maybe like 2 years, maybe not even, maybe like a year at this time. And her best friend Amy, who's also one of my best friends, she got me a job at Molly Maid, which is one of the most humbling things.
With the hands on top of the car?
I don't know about the hands, but yeah, it was a very humbling job to be cleaning houses. And me and Amy were working at Molly Maid, and it was like super long shifts too. And I lived in sober living, and I would go to a meeting after my shift, and that was pretty much my life. And I enjoyed it. I was like really happy. But I like tried working the steps, but I was so delusional. That's the only way I could describe it. It's like my life was everything happened to me. I saw no part in anything I did.
You were a victim.
I was just a victim. It was, yeah. And so when I tried to work my steps, it just didn't click. So yeah, I had no solution, and I just
How long did you stay sober that time?
probably 30 days. It doesn't seem like a lot.
No,
but like
no, that's
in
solid.
in the
Yeah.
time, like I was like, I am absolutely killing it.
Look,
Yeah, 30 honest days.
Look, prior to now, my record for staying sober outside of treatment, 3 days.
Yeah. I
3
would
days.
say I would get out of treatment and then go do like kratom or some bullshit, and it was just, it didn't seem like a big deal, but it was preventing me from actually
Getting heroin.
or doing any honest work,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be telling like a sponsor or anything like, oh yeah, I went to the gas station and chugged fucking 3 things of kratom.
So, Ashley, how many times did you end up going to treatment?
I honestly, I remember I wrote it down right one time, and it was Recovery Unplugged was my 19th time, but I honestly don't know. Like, if you're throwing detoxes in there, I would have to sit down and with my mother
Get
and
an
and a
abacus out.
doctor. I have no idea. A lot.
Yeah.
By the time that picture, when I went to, my sister got me that scholarship into Palm Partners. That was probably like the worst that I had physically looked. I remember I checked into that facility, and I was so underweight that they had to like take me to the hospital and put me on like IV fluids because I was just like
Wow.
not well.
Give you like 3 insures every couple
Yeah,
hours.
and my mom like came to sit with me in the hospital. I remember just looking at her, and I'm just like, I suck, like that feeling where I'm just like, I'm just the worst person. And it didn't take. As soon as I got back, I had left that facility, AMA. I was so insane that I didn't think anyone noticed that I left. So I snuck back into my, because this place was like apartments, and then I overdosed in my room. And that was the end of Florida. I went to the hospital.
And Florida just kicked you out.
Well, they did like this, they put me on like code red, some shit like that. And they wouldn't let me leave my
Not the
room.
Mountain Dew? Not the Red Mountain Dew?
No.
Okay.
And they had like a meeting with my mom and every single therapist there, and they were like, hey, if you don't get her out of Florida, she's gonna die. And I was like, fair.
Yeah. You were like, I agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, for Florida to say that, that's a pretty high bar.
Yeah. They were just like, you gotta go somewhere else. So that's what I did. I went shipped off to North Carolina.
North Carolina. So, one really interesting part of your story to me is that you have a longtime boyfriend that you used together with, but also went to treatment together with, and then eventually both got sober.
Yeah.
When does Brett come into the picture?
So, I was in North Carolina for a little bit. I actually did pretty well there.
Yeah.
I was working NA, but again, had no solution. I think I'm really good at staying sober if I don't know where to get high. The minute one of my roommates was like, hey, I'm heading out to get high, I was like, for sure, me too. Like,
Right.
and I left.
Thank God, somebody finally.
Yeah,
We've
that was like
waited.
6 months in too,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even like a thought.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in Michigan, which is where Brett comes into the picture. I ended up in some Scientology facility.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. The Scientology.
I didn't mean to end up there.
Did you have to do the steam room and all that stuff?
Yeah, they have saunas. It wasn't. I didn't mean to go there. I didn't
I
know
don't
where I
think
was going.
anybody really means to go to a Scientology
Yeah, well, this place was marketed as like, it wasn't marketed like Narconon is.
Yeah.
It was marketed as a treatment center until you got there, and then there were pictures of like L. Ron Hubbard on the walls, and I was like, hold on, just a minute. I didn't really care though.
Right.
I needed somewhere to go.
You needed help.
They offered detox meds. Sounds good to me.
Well, like what Jason was calling that victim mentality earlier, like to me it was always that like not so much a victim, but like I'm just going along with whatever happens in life.
Yeah.
So like you just accepted it, right?
Yeah, it was just like, it is what it is. I actually was interested in it because,
It's something different.
exactly, and I had tried.
It's good enough for Leah Remini.
I had
Right?
Cruz.
I had tried, or I thought I had gave like an honest attempt at the steps. So I was like, I'm kind of over AA. I'm gonna try this stuff.
This interplanetary shit sounds pretty cool.
It was like, yeah, like the exercises you did. It was just like, do birds fly? And you would have to repeat that over and over and over.
They do though.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really make any sense, but you would just like sit and stare at somebody.
Audited. You're getting audited.
Yeah, and you would just have to say things, or you would have to read the Alice in Wonderland book without stopping, no matter what someone was saying to you. It was like all reaction, how you reacted to other people.
Like learning to control.
Exactly. It was very strange, but...
How long were you there?
I was there for like 60 days. I was there for a while. That was a while to me. I didn't stay anywhere long, so 6 days was a long time to me. And that's where I met Brett. And
wait, so Brett was in the Scientology?
Brett ended up. There's not a lot of treatment centers in Michigan.
Fair.
So, he ended up at the same place. It was actually his first time in treatment. So.
Oh, so you corrupted this boy.
I didn't corrupt him. Okay.
You found love in a hopeless place.
Exactly. Hashtag Rihanna.
So you. If I remember correctly, you ran away from this place, right? Like you...
No. I graduated. I did the whole thing.
Oh, and then you worked for them?
No. I ended up... That was the second time I went there. They shipped me off to California. That's where they sent everybody for sober living. Absolutely hated California. It was like the worst 2 weeks of my life.
I am not surprised by this.
Yeah, no, Brett was supposed to meet me in California, but at the last minute, they were like, oh, actually, your insurance won't cover this facility in California. So he told his parents that he was just going to, like, get in the car and drive to California. And they were like, no, you're not. And they bought me a plane ticket, a one-way ticket back to Michigan.
Who's they?
Brett's parents. Right. And I moved
We're
in.
We're going to fly that girl you met in rehab.
Yeah. Yeah, and I moved in with
Keep him from driving out there, though.
Yeah. That's classic Michigander, though. They're like nice people who are
they're
like,
amazing.
Oh, this sweet girl, yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing people. And yeah, I lived with them for about a year. We stayed sober. We weren't doing anything for our recovery, but we stayed.
You were abstinent.
Yeah, we stayed sober for a little bit. Then we started drinking, and I remember I went home for New Year's. I took Brett to Florida for New Year's, and I remember we landed and we met my mom like at a restaurant by the airport at like a bar. There was like a fight on, and I remember we sat down. I was like, "Mom, I'm drinking now. It's not a big deal. I'm actually like." I think I'm normal. And she was like, okay, you're going to be shooting dope in 2 weeks, but for sure.
And
was it 2 weeks?
She gave you too much credit on the 2 weeks, didn't she?
No, we drank for a little bit before other stuff got thrown into the mix. He actually was doing kratom, and I like caught him doing kratom, and I was like, how could you? And yeah, them,
So when did Recovery Unplugged come into the picture?
So yeah, I eventually got sent to back to treatment. Ended up working there, and then I relapsed while I was working there. They put me back. That's what they do. They just put you back in treatment over and over.
At the Scientology place.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I called my sister after they had put me back in treatment. I was like, hey, I got to get the fuck out of here. It was like a moment of clarity where I was like, this is not it. And she was like, cool, you're going to go to Texas. And I was like, no, I'm not. Sounds horrible.
Why?
I
Was
pictured
she
Texas.
working at Recovery Unplugged already?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She worked in Florida. And yeah, I flew. Of course, I had to make a stop in Florida to get high, obviously. And then I came to Recovery Unplugged in Austin.
Who came first, you or Brett?
Brett came about 3 months before I did.
What did you do for 3 months while Brett was here and you were there?
I was working at the Scientology
Okay.
place, and then I was getting high.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and yeah, that ended up at Recovery Unplugged.
So you came to Austin, stayed sober, eventually got a job at Unplugged. Now, earlier you said you were open to talking about whatever.
Mhm.
So I think it's a pretty interesting experience that for you, right, with both you and Brett in recovery for a period of time, Brett relapsed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I mean, how long did it take you to notice? What was your response to all that? Like,
I think I noticed immediately. There was definitely a time where I like didn't say it because I thought it was crazy.
yeah.
Because like I only had 4 months sober at the time when he relapsed. And I remember he would like go into the bathroom for a long time, like take really long showers, and I was like, it's a little suspicious. And then it was just suspicion though. And I remember even one time we were leaving, he had a show at Love Goat, and we were leaving the show and we got in the car and I was like trying to feel him out. I was like, hey, I want to get high. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, we're not getting high. And I was like, all right. And I think though, like subconsciously, like I knew he was high.
Mhm.
What would you have done if Brett had been like, yeah, let's do it?
I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have got high.
Yeah.
I don't know. In the moment, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
I was like not in a good place. And obviously if I'm propositioning him to get high, I'm not in a good place.
Yeah.
So, and then we were at like IHOP or Denny's or something. And we were with one of our friends who he was getting high with. And I saw track marks on their arms. And like the waiter had just walked up to us too. And I was like, you guys are high. And it was a huge deal. I was
Did
like,
they deny it?
no, I was crying. Our other friend was like, I'm so sorry, Ashley. And Brett was like, Ashley, you get high all the time. Which is true.
Well, I mean, up until this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Y'all just been relapsing.
Yeah.
So did you still order pancakes?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think I did still eat.
Just the saddest pancakes
Yeah.
ever.
Fruity, tooty, fresh, and depressed.
Yeah, and then I had like this weird experience where I was like, should I keep this a secret? Because he like, immediately I was like, you gotta figure this out. Like this can't be a thing. But I told my Shelly Joyner, my house manager at the time, because I knew I was like, if I keep this a secret, like I will end up getting high with them.
Yeah.
So I told like a few girls in my house, and I told Shelly just where I was at with it. I was just like honest with the girls in my life at that time. And he eventually went back to Recovery Unplugged and got sober. But if I didn't tell anyone about it, I probably would have gotten high.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those cliches that I hate cliches, but it's true. It's like, when you say you're only as sick as your secrets, right? Like that stuff that you hide is the stuff that'll take you out.
Yeah.
So really quick, I just want to talk about we had mentioned before on another show about like kind of finding your tribe, finding the people who you click with. And your boyfriend and his band Nolo are just like an organism, essentially.
We're just one.
Are you the nucleus? I think you might be,
I
because
think
you're the only one
Ashley's
who's
the
not in the
nucleus.
band. And so when I started coming to
I
Austin,
think Brett thinks he's the nucleus.
I think they all think they're the nucleus except for Jay, and Richie probably doesn't either. But I think it's all equal. Can that be a 5-part, 6-part nucleus? Anyway, so when I started coming to Austin for work, I'm not sure how long you guys had sober and clean at the time, but most of y'all were working for Recovery Unplugged at the time, and it was just like the coolest group of people. And I was like, these guys are great. I really want to move to Austin. Like, I don't feel like I fit in Florida. Like, these are the people like I feel like I fit in with. And you guys never invite me anywhere. But no, I'm just
Okay.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
That is not true.
No, I
Jason.
know. I'm just
You
kidding.
and
No.
Gabby don't leave your house.
But no, you guys are seriously just like such a positive, happy family. And you guys lived together for years
Yeah.
up until just recently. You bought a house. I know we had mentioned it in the beginning of the show, but you just bought a house with Brett.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Those guys, I mean, yeah, we're like one human being. I would die for any of them. I always tell people, I'm like, if you get a chance to move in with your boyfriend in this band, like do it. And
Highly
like
recommend.
I complain about them a lot when I live with them because they're loud and they're messy. And, you know, I lived with 5 dudes for 3.5 years. But I would die for all of them.
And you guys have seen each other through such ups
The trauma
and
bond
downs.
is so strong.
I've gone to the house after, you know, a couple of big, momentous, bad things happening, and it's like they have this huge like living room that they just turn into like a bed.
It's
and
a mega bed.
The mega bed, and everybody
Yeah.
just hangs
We
out there
sleep
and
in the living
watches
room
TV,
together.
and
Yeah.
it's really heartwarming to see. It's you guys.
So how does that feel though? Like to be a homeowner, like you've got a mortgage, and you know, from failed Scientologist to homeowner.
It's pretty crazy. I always think like people say like my life is better than I would have imagined, but like I didn't even want this. So it wasn't even something I imagined, you
Yeah.
know? Being a homeowner wasn't even a thought in my mind that ever
Right.
occurred. I didn't even think I could ever get a car, you know? Getting a car in general was like amazing to me. But yeah, it's insane. But I worked really hard for it, you know?
Right.
Like I work at Recovery Unplugged. I work all the time.
All the time.
I'm on call 24/7. My phone is always on. Like it's been that way for almost 4 years. So
So your phone is always on. So what is your title at Recovery Unplugged?
Director of
National
National Director of Alumni Services.
So that means anybody who's gone through Recovery Unplugged has access to you if they're going through something, good or bad. They want to share, I got a year in recovery, I got 6 months in recovery, or I'm struggling, can you help me? And this is the kind of service that
Yeah.
you provide.
Yeah. I definitely have taken like a step back from the direct client care. I still am always at the Austin facilities and everyone who goes. I try my best to meet everybody who goes through there, but I'm more overseeing like the department as a whole and trying to figure out ways that we could grow and help more people.
And Ashley handles the most difficult of our alumni
Yeah.
clients.
The really bad ones.
Yeah.
Those are
Ashley's
those are
people.
my favorites.
You do well with those people, though. The problem
do,
clients.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
can see it.
I read the shift reports to make sure my little
Your little kiddos.
my kids
Your
are
little angels.
acting right. They never are. They're always
No.
AMAing.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. You know, when all resources, the facilities have been exhausted, it's like, have you put them on the phone with Ashley yet?
Last ditch effort.
Because Ashley will just go on the, like, you know, they'll talk to the therapist, and the therapist will be like, you know, what are you feeling right now? What's going on? You know, they'll talk to the techs. We'll try to be like their buddy. And they get on the phone with Ashley, and Ashley's like, what the fuck are you doing?
The big guns.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are you acting
And then
like
they're
me?
just like, you're right. I'll be good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Lasts for about an hour.
Yeah. Until it's literally 5 p.m. on Friday.
Yes.
That's when they decide they're gonna leave.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you really do save lives, Ashley. I've seen it happen firsthand. You know, you do great work. Always there for anybody who needs help, and it's very, very appreciated. And
And you throw great parties.
Thank you.
maybe I'll
that's
get invited to one day.
Are you? Yeah. Are you? Oh, you're. Yeah. We're good. We're
Where are
doing
you going to be at 8 a.m. on Friday?
We're
You
gonna,
see, she was about to invite me, and she's like, oh, I can't do that.
No, we're doing a Halloween spooky speaker meeting.
Okay. Sounds terrifying. I'll be there.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we've come to that time. It's a sad time because we're getting towards the end of the show, but it's also a happy time because it's rapid fire question time.
It's rapid fire question time.
You just saw a bunch of explosions. You're overwhelmed.
Wow.
All right, Ashley. Brett's band needs a new name. You have been tasked with coming up with a new name, and you only have 5 seconds to think about it. What is their new name? 3, 2, 1.
I don't know. That's a really hard question.
Is it?
What would you call them?
Oh, Yeehaw and the Boogie Times.
That's pretty good.
I do have a band for if my cats and Bean had a band.
Bean has been a subject on the show before.
Yeah,
That's Jason Amato's dog.
It would be Frito Feet and the Biscuit Boys.
Yes, there we go.
Bean's obviously Frito Feet. The Biscuit Boys are my cats.
That's all.
So maybe Nolo can use that if
Yes.
the cats don't take
I
off
love
their
it.
career.
All right, fellow Elliott Smith fan, what is your least favorite Elliott Smith song?
The Happy One.
Least favorite. So
I'll just remind you real quick. This segment is called Rapid.
Rapid.
yeah, I know you're asking
Fires.
really hard
Well,
questions.
that's the point.
Probably something off Roman Candle.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you one specific song, though.
Intriguing. Thank you.
Fair. All right.
So far I've answered none of the questions.
Ben and Jerry reach out to you. They would like to make you the new flavor of Ben and Jerry. What do you have in your ice cream and what do you call it?
Vanilla, just vanilla and strawberries, and I would call it "This Is Good Enough."
I was hoping it was going to be Fritos and biscuits.
That
Frito
would be-
Feed and the
that
Busy
would
Boys.
be-
Well, I'm saying the
Tub's
ice cream would be
flavor.
Frito and biscuits.
Okay.
All right. How many days do you have sober?
How many days? I don't know.
Take a guess.
1,432.
I think that's close.
All right. I don't have anything. What's your favorite flavor of Escobar?
Right now, the blue gummy. That's easy.
Maybe we can get Escobar sponsorship. Blue Gummy. Try it today.
1,000 ways in, 1,000 ways out.
No,
Oh, yeah. So parting words, hope,
you get
share it.
talk.
Somebody's out there still struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I always say if I could say like one thing to somebody who's struggling, it's just to like not give up. Even if you are in that cycle where you keep getting high and over and over again, just do your best to stay alive until you can get out of it. That sounds kind of morbid, but it's just
No,
like
it's
the
true.
case these days.
true.
Like, do your best to stay alive. Carry Narcan, test your dope, and always get high with a friend if you're gonna get high.
If you've still got friends.
If you still got friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on. It's truly a joy, just a bright spot, as always.
Thank you.
Bright spot, Ashley.
That's what they call her.
It was always my dream to come on Talksicology.
Anyway, thank you to our loyal listeners. And as we like to say here on Toxicology, there's 1,000 ways in,
And 1,000 ways out.
and we hope you
You
find
find
yours.
I never remembered that.